Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I am going to talk to people about responsibility or accountability and responsibility, or responsibility and accountability. So that way you can click off right now if you don't want to hear what I have to say. Because who wants to hear about responsibility and accountability? It's like, oh man, what are you, my dad? No, I get it. But I'll tell you why this topic came up in a second. But before I do, I have to correct myself, make a correction about what I said in my live stream on that I did yesterday on Substack. I did not say that it was going to be Walmart, okay, that closes their door November 1st or anything. Other people are saying that. I did not say that. However, I did imply that stores may close their doors, or lock people out, or whatever the case may be, for their own protection and because they're afraid of getting looted and robbed. I did say that, and I do think that's possible. However, I cannot find any official statement from any store at all saying that they will close their doors on November 1st. Nothing official. So I'm guessing that rumor got started, that I unfortunately repeated, and other people I've heard repeat several times on other channels or what have you, probably because of all of the TikTok videos and everything else, because people are scared and they're concerned and they don't want to accept any responsibility or accountability, and it kind of gives them, justifies, I think, in their hearts and their minds that they can steal and do whatever they need to do to, feed themselves, their families, or whatever else it is that they want to justify in their hearts and minds that they think is right, or at least maybe not right, but they just simply justify it out of desperation or what have you, and because, like I said in my live stream yesterday, people hate being told no. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, you can't go here. No, you can't go there. They hate being told no. And I'll get into that a little further as well. So I have to correct that statement that I made in my Substack live stream yesterday. There's no official statement from Walmart or any store that I could see that says that they're actually going to close their doors on November 1st to the public. Forcing people to order online. I didn't say any of this, but this is the stuff I've heard that other people are saying, reporting. Forcing people to have to order things online, or curbside service, or whatever, I don't know. Or, all the way till January. I thought that was kind of strange myself, because that implies that, they know when the shutdown might end, and I don't think anyone really does know that, or if it ever does end, I have no idea. There's a lot of speculation regarding that too. But anyway, I just wanted to correct myself on that, and I don't want to invoke any kind of unnecessary fear or anything of that nature. That being said, though, I do stand by, what I said, that you might want to get whatever it is you need now, just in case that does happen. And the reason I say that is, any store manager worth their mettle, any decent human being, that isn't just a corporate man or woman or whatever, and doesn't just care about the bottom line, but actually cares about their employees and the safety of their employees. Because you have loss prevention in a lot of these stores, and security, mostly unarmed, but you have security in a lot of these stores as well. Some of them are plain clothes, so that's how they catch shoplifters and things of that nature. And some of them are uniformed, and some stores don't have any security at all. But any store manager worth their mettle, ultimately they are going to protect their people, protect the employees from any kind of harm. So I would imagine it would be left up to the store managers to decide what to do. So say hypothetically, okay, that everything breaks loose on November 1st, and I don't know if it will or not. I learned last night that apparently yesterday, I didn't know this at the time when I made my live stream, but yesterday was like the last day for anybody with any kind of power or authority to do anything to make sure that people did get their SNAP and EBT or whatever by November 1st. So I think the belief is on a lot of these videos and people reporting on this is, okay, well, if people don't get their SNAP EBT uploaded to their cards or whatever on November 1st, then stores will be concerned about that, and they will shutter their doors. They'll lock their doors or whatever and not let people come into their stores. That's simply not true, at least from what I can tell from any official statements. So this was brought to my attention earlier, and so I just wanted to point that out to everybody. But yeah, I do think it's wise to get what you need now, in case that does happen. And do you really want to be in a store when they decide they want to lock the doors, throw everybody out, lock the doors or whatever, or maybe they don't have the option and maybe you get locked in? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Anybody says they do, they're probably very wrong or just straight up trying to invoke fear in people. But I would imagine that in major U.S. cities, there's a good possibility of that, where people could wind up getting locked in for their own safety and protection. If there's a mob, a mass group of people that want to come in and their only intent is to loot and to rob and to take what they can and to bust out the doors, they won't care who they hurt. They won't care who gets in their way. Unless a lot of the people making these videos, TikTok, on X or whatever, unless a lot of them are trolls, maybe they're paid trolls or whatever, maybe it's even AI. Who knows anymore? I personally don't think so. I think people are revealing their hearts. I think, like Jesus said, this truly is an evil generation, and I'm not picking on any particular one generation, but this is an evil generation, an evil time. So I think people are truly revealing their hearts when they say that they're going to go in and they're going to loot and rob and take whatever they want, and nobody better not get in their way, and all the rest of this stuff, and all these threats and so forth. I think there's a possibility of that happening. But the thing that really got my attention about this whole thing, like I said, if these videos are real, and I think a lot of them are, I think the majority of them probably are, because people are concerned and they're scared and they want to justify their actions. The thing that really got my attention, though, is I've heard from both male and female that people making these videos and putting things up on TikTok or X or whatever social media outlet, that they literally have said that they believe it is the taxpayers' responsibility to pay for themselves and to pay for them and to feed their kids, to help them feed their kids. So basically, it's yours and mine and anybody who's in the workforce or has been in the workforce and, earned their retirement, pension, whatever else. It's our responsibility to take care of these people when they either don't want to work or refuse to better their situation or aren't willing to do what needs to be done in order to take care of their children, that a lot of these people probably should have never had, and then they continued to have more and more kids that they couldn't take care of. I mean, that's what is these people are outing themselves on these videos. Like I said, they really are. And the arrogance and the ignorance to say that it's my responsibility, your responsibility, because they're a deadbeat parent is basically what it boils down to, And some of them have bragged about how they don't work, they're never going to work, they don't need to work because the government takes care of them. And then they said, don't be jealous, because I know how to work the system, I know how to scan the system, because I'm a welfare queen or king or whatever else. And I'm just thinking to myself, this can't be real. This can't be real. You're literally saying that it's my responsibility to take care of you and your family, not because you really need the help, but because you don't want to work, because you think it's my job to work for you Like, you're my employer. I've literally heard people say this. I've shared some of the videos to a certain extent. Some of them contain so much language that you just can't justify it. So I put it on the Substack or whatever. But, it's just like, because you can just share links to that, and I don't have to put up warnings or caution this or whatever that, just say, hey, people watch it or they don't watch it, whatever, your choice. But I just can't believe that people, I can, but I don't want to believe it, that people really believe, they believe that they're so entitled that they think that it's my responsibility or your responsibility to take care of them and their family because they don't want to work. And they literally brag about it. And they literally say they're never going to work. And it's our job. One guy even said, don't tap out now. Don't quit now. You've been taking care of us for this long. Why are you going to quit now? You've been taking care of me for... And they're so entitled that they truly believe that they don't have to do a darn thing. Nothing that they don't want to do. Don't have to put themselves out there. Don't have to be made uncomfortable in any way. Don't want to be inconvenienced in any way. They literally believe that it's our job to take care of them. Well, I don't know exactly where it is in the word, but I know it does say that if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. Okay? Person doesn't work, they don't eat. Okay? But that doesn't seem to matter in this society and this, and in this entitled way that people think and believe. And I started thinking, after I did, like I usually do, after I do a live stream on Substack or make a video or whatever, about things that I didn't say and I could have said or whatever. Sometimes things I said that I shouldn't have said. But I started thinking more about in my life and situations that I've come across, specifically when I was working security in Florida. And I mentioned yesterday, I actually ran in, well, I didn't mention this yesterday, but I actually ran into one of these deadbeat dad entitled individuals that don't want to accept any personal accountability or individual responsibility. No responsibility or accountability at all. And when you come across people like that, there's no negotiating with them. There's no reasoning with them. And before I get into the story, though, it's like, if people truly believe, whether they're raised that way in generational poverty or whatever else, or and they've been raised to believe that the government's supposed to take care of them and other people are supposed to take care of them, and they have that entitlement mentality, if that's what they truly believe, then they'll never have any personal accountability or individual responsibility. Never will they accept any kind of responsibility or accountability for their actions, because they truly believe they can just do whatever they want. Not only that, but they can treat people however they want. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Aleister Crowley, I'm sure people have heard that saying before, or heard that before. So just do whatever you want. It doesn't matter if you hurt people or don't hurt people. If somebody gets in your way, just stomp all over them. That's the mindset here. And I came across that years ago, and it came at a time when I was so frustrated that I didn't back down. And I usually don't back down anyway, but I might kind of take a few steps back or try to walk away from a confrontation or situation. But it came at a time when I was so frustrated and angry that I didn't back down. And I actually said some things that were completely true, didn't get me in trouble because they were true, and I held a dad responsible for his own son when I was working security at the Lake Square Mall in Leesburg, Florida. And yesterday I talked about how, at that particular location, people can look it up online. It's an article or whatever, where they were so foolish and stupid at that particular place that they actually turned a family fun entertainment center into a death trap. And literally someone, by setting up this event that they should have never done, and literally someone lost their life at the end of the night. So I could see the writing on the wall when I was working security at this place for quite a while. But what really began to get to me was I saw a lot of parents, and like I said, I'm not particularly picking on any generation per se, okay? But this is what was going on, okay? If you have parents like in their 30s or whatever, and, you know, they have kids in their teen years, anywhere from like 13 to up to like 16 or whatever else, and maybe 17, it doesn't take a, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, how young these people were when they had these children, right? And so when they're in their 30s, they're still pretty young. So, especially in their early to mid 30s, they want to go out and party or whatever still on the weekends. They want to hang out with their friends, go watch the game or whatever else. And their kids probably don't want to be around their parents and their friends, so they, so they drop them off at the mall, and they make them mall security's responsibility. Well, at the time, I was part of mall security, right? Now, if the kids behaved themselves and they just went in to see a movie or whatever, and their parents came to pick them up afterwards, no problem. That never happened. They would drop their kids off at like 6 p.m., let their kids hang out all night, and AMC theaters did not help us out at the time, buy the ticket for the late show of whatever PG-13 movie was that would start at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock or sometimes later at night. And because these kids were still, they could get into a PG-13 movie or whatever without parent or guardian, because none of them were R at that time, they would go see that late movie. After causing all kinds of chaos throughout the evening, we're trying to round these kids up, kick them out of the mall, but then they come back in. The parents weren't anywhere to be seen. There's no responsibility. There's no accountability. It was a disaster every single weekend. It was like being a parent, and I was a parent of my own children. My wife and I, we've raised our kids now. I mean, my kids were around that same age at that time, but I wasn't going to let them do that. Are you kidding me? But these parents didn't care. And their kids would run roughshod. Sometimes we'd have to call the police. Sometimes they would shoplift, Sometimes we would criminally trespass them. But the problem is, the police, they're patrolling the city. They've got other calls, and they can't be at the mall all night long. So it's our responsibility to watch out for these kids, right? And if they get hurt on the premises, then guess who's responsible for that? I mean, so it's a bad situation. No parents are around anywhere. Now, if they would come pick their kids up after the movie would end, at least that would be helpful. Some did, others didn't. So now you've got these 13 to 16-year-old kids running roughshod through the mall the whole night, all right, seeing the late movie. The late movie gets out 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, basically, and now nobody's there to pick up these kids. Well, one night I just had it. And there was like this 13, 14-year-old little punk or whatever. Just disrespectful. Just a punk. And usually when we throw the kids out of the mall, if we catch them coming back in, we just throw them back out again. You throw them out, they come back in, throw them back out again. Eventually they might get the hint and says, okay, these guys are serious. I guess I'm done for the night or whatever. Well, this particular punk I threw out, and he was a punk, he decided to call Dad. And this was not that late at night at the time. The mall was still open at that time. And Dad comes to the mall. And Dad blames me. Because I was in charge. I was a lieutenant at the time or whatever. And I guess the kid described me or whatever the case may be. And so Dad blames me. And that wasn't just me that threw him out. I mean, we had other security officers there, I mean, I don't mean like pick them up, throw them out like a bouncer in a bar. I mean, you just basically escort them off the premises, escort them out the door kind of thing, right? So anyway, and then he wants to make a big scene in the food court, and we had cameras that worked. You couldn't hear everything, but we had cameras that worked. And he says, and he blames me, and he's just like, how is it that you can throw a child or whatever, my son out, and he's only 13 years old, and you don't care what happens to him or this and that? And I said, this is what your son did. And this dad didn't care. This kid was was like, he was doing stupid stuff, kicking doors. I mean, these doors are glass, so if you miss and you miss the push bar, you put your foot through the door. I'm trying to save this kid's life, I'm trying to, also save property as well. The kid's an idiot. He's like, your son's a moron. What do you want me to say? I mean, I didn't say that. I tried to be cool and, be professional. But at the same time, I'm just like, you raised an idiot, and I'm listening to this guy making all these excuses for his son. Well, if that was the case, then you should have got my phone number and called me. I'm like, I'm not his dad. I'm not his babysitter. It's not my responsibility. And, he's like, well, how is that not your responsibility? And I said, because I'm not his dad. You are. And then I got really mad. And I said, where were you? What are you talking about? I said, where are you? Are you his dad? Yeah, I'm his dad. And he starts cussing at me then, because now he knows I'm holding him accountable. Just like when you tell people no, when you have a position of authority, whether it's security, law enforcement, firefighter, paramedic, whatever, people that have a teacher, people that have a position of authority, when you tell people no, they get angry because they're rebellious in their spirit. And, rebellious is the sin of witchcraft. Rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, right? Since we're in that time of year. But anyway, I mean, they get rebellious in their spirit, and it's like, who are you to tell me? Well, that's the way this guy acted, He's like, well, who are you to judge me? And I said, I'm not judging. I'm just asking you a question. Where were you? You're his dad. What did you just abandon your kid? I didn't abandon him. And it's like, well, you weren't here. He's acting a fool. You're not here. We had to deal with it. It's not my responsibility to have your son tell me what your phone number is to call you to come pick him up. This is not a babysitting service. This is the Lake Square Mall. This is a place where people come to shop, watch a movie, go play bowl, or whatever else they want to do, whatever's available to them in the mall. People come here to have a good time, and to not be harassed by a bunch of punk kids, and not have to deal with all this stupidity of kids running around without any parental supervision. I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but that's how I explained it all, and he's furious. I mean, demands to see the supervisor. Well, I'm the supervisor, dummy. At least at that time I was, it demands this and demands that and turn me in for this and turn me in. And it's just like, dude, you're his dad. You're pissed off because I'm calling you out for being a deadbeat dad. You don't want to be a parent. You want to go out because you're still in your 30s or whatever else, and you want to go out and party. And you want to go out and do what you want to do, and then you drop your kid off just like all these other loser parents at the mall at 6 p.m. and don't come pick them up until after the late show of the movie, knowing that they're going to see the late movie, and we got to deal with them all night long. All night long we got to deal with these delinquents, And it's like, I don't get paid enough for this. I don't get paid enough to be a security officer, the kid's parent, and and a babysitter. I don't get paid, and a correctional officer kind of to boot. I don't get paid enough for this. This was way before COVID, before people got paid what they were worth to a certain extent with salaries. I mean, I got paid practically nothing to deal with this mess. And so I'm thinking about fast forward to now, years later, I don't know, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been, more later, I'm thinking now, like, it's the same thing. There's no personal accountability, individual responsibility. So people can get on here and they can make their videos and they can talk about this and that and what they're going to do if the stores don't open or they close their doors, or, if they can't get their EBT or SNAP or whatever else. And I'm thinking, where is your accountability and responsibility? See, I'm going to hurt some people's feelings here, but this is what I see. And keep in mind that people have contacted me over the years about a lot of personal issues, their problems, kind of treat me like I'm a pastor, and I'm not, but because I guess they look at me as being trustworthy, have a trusting face or whatever. I've had people contact me over the years about a lot of things and the situations that they're in and the positions they're in. And as I listen to their stories and I listen to what they tell me, I don't do it anymore. For the most part, I've cut all of that off, okay? I can't take it. I can't do it. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a pastor, okay? It's just not my calling, But I have in the past listened to people, tell me their stories and everything, and I'm thinking to myself, you have made a lifetime of bad decisions, and now you're reaping what you're sowing. And that's a fact, Jack, and I'm sorry about that. But we all reap what we sow. And you have not wanted to take any accountability or responsibility for those decisions until now. And now it's too late, because we all reap what we sow. And that doesn't mean that God isn't gracious and forgiving and so forth, and we're not supposed to be that way, and we're supposed to be gracious and forgiving and so forth too. But at the same time, I remember the analogy I heard years ago, a person has full-blown AIDS or whatever, then they get saved and they accept Jesus. That doesn't mean they don't have AIDS anymore, unless God heals them, unless there's divine intervention and miracles. That was the consequences of their actions. So now the difference is, if they die from this disease, at least they'll be in heaven now. That's huge. I mean, that's big. That's the greatest decision they could have ever made in their life. But to accept Jesus, but that doesn't mean they don't have AIDS. It doesn't mean they're not going to suffer. They may not suffer as much. I don't know. Maybe God will have more mercy and grace. I don't know. But being someone that's seen AIDS patients die in a hospital, when I was a hospital corpsman in the Navy and so forth, I mean, I know what it's like watching people deteriorate or whatever. So just because somebody accepts Jesus doesn't mean that they no longer have this disease or illness. Well, it's the same type of thing. People can't make bad decisions for years and years and years and years and years, and then expect that things are just going to all of a sudden miraculously get better because they either get saved or rededicate their life to the Lord or whatever, or they start making better decisions. That's good, but you still got to pay for the bad decisions, the bad choices. And these people, a lot of them, not all of them, I understand people need assistance. I understand they're doing the best they can. I understand the economy's in a downfall. I understand a free fall, basically. I understand that there's not a lot of jobs out there. People are constantly getting laid off. I understand that it's difficult to make ends meet. I understand all of this, okay? I get it. But a lot of these people have been living off of, the government welfare system, SNAP EBT program for years and years and years and years and years, scamming the system, bragging about it, bragging about how they've gotten away with it, how they continue to, and then they're so arrogant to say, well, don't be jealous because I know how to work the system. Don't be jealous because I know, because I don't have to work, and other people are going to pay my way. Other people are going to take care of me. It's like, I'm not jealous. I feel sad for you. I pity you because you're an idiot. And because when they do cut it off completely, I mean, and it appears that may be happening now, and if it doesn't come back up, I don't know what to tell you. But you made your choice. You chose to scam. You chose to manipulate. You chose to deceive. You chose to lie. You chose all of this. And now payday is here, like Pastor Ben Faircloth said so many times before. Payday is here now, and now people, they don't know what to do. They don't know how they're going to handle it. And they expect people to feel sorry for them and help them out, this and that and that and that, blah, blah, blah. And the people that really do need assistance and help, absolutely. But that's where wisdom and discernment comes in on who you should help and who you shouldn't help, because a lot of these people, they are con artists, man. And now they're getting their just desserts. And we're supposed to feel bad about that, especially when you throw it in my face. My wife works hard. I work hard. My son works hard. My daughter works hard. You probably work hard. Your family probably works hard. And then to have somebody say, well, you need to pay me. You owe me. I don't owe you jack. What do I owe you? Nothing. Nothing. One of my favorite movies are the Rocky movies, right? I remember this scene. I always remember this scene where Paulie's so jealous of Rocky at the beginning of Rocky 3, and he's an idiot and he winds up in jail or whatever. And Rocky goes to visit him, and then when he goes in to visit him, he kind of listens to what Paulie has to say, and Paulie's blaming Rocky. You know, Paulie's a bum, and he's blaming Rocky, and he's telling him, you know, that friends owe, and Rocky says friends don't owe, friends do because they want to do, and Rocky says no you, and Paulie's like, you know, you owe me, you're keeping me down. And he goes, down? And Rocky says something to him. He goes, you know, you're like a brother to me, because he is his brother-in-law. And he said, you're like a crazy brother to me. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. This comes straight from the heart. And he goes, you're not down. And he goes, and you're not lazy. He goes, you're not down, and you're not stupid, or something like that. I don't remember the exact dialogue. And then he goes, you're just a jealous, lazy bum. And then, of course, you know, Paulie wants to try to, you know, bust Rocky's teeth out. Yeah, like that's going to happen, right? but anyway, I love that scene because there's so much truth to it. And he's just like, you know, Rocky's done everything for this guy, you know. And he throws his Rolex watch down on the ground that Rocky bought him, you know. He's not grateful at all. He's not appreciative at all, you know. And Rocky says, you're just a jealous, lazy bum. Well, that's how I look at a lot of these people. You know, they're not jealous, though, because they've learned how to scam the system. So they're telling us not to be jealous. But lazy bum, absolutely. Not everybody fits the category, and I understand that. But a lot of these people do. And for people to get on there, if it's real, if it's not AI, and they're not just paid trolls and whatever else, and maybe they're just put on there to make people angry or whatever. But I have the feeling that this is how these people really are. This is what they really believe. And they think that I owe them, or you owe them, or the society owes them, because that's the way they were raised to believe, and that's the system that they've lived off of for so long, and they've scammed off of for so long. I really believe that they think that we owe them, and they're just lazy bumps. They openly admit it. They out themselves. I don't have to work. I'm not going to work. Get it through your thick skull. I'm not going to work. I don't have to work. That's what they say to us, you know? That's what and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? And I'm supposed to feel bad for you? I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? And it's just like, and you throw it in my face, thinking that I owe you something, and it's my job to pay your way through life? This just boggles my mind. I know I'm an old school guy, you know, raised differently and this and that, raised to think differently and blah, blah, blah. But this just boggles my mind, how people can be this pathetic and lazy and ridiculous. And I mean, when Jesus said, you know, this is an evil generation, I think he was referring to, you know, in the New Testament as well. But I think he's referring to this generation. This is an evil generation. They only care about themselves. They only care about what they can get. I'm not saying everybody, not throwing everybody in the same category, but when we're going to find out, we're going to see people's true colors, and we're going to find out what people are made of, and we're going to find out very soon how much of them really do have this entitlement mentality where they think that everybody owes them something. But I do like that particular dialogue in Rocky 3, you know, when Paulie's like, friends owe. He's like, you owe me. And Rocky's like, what are you talking about? Friends don't owe. They don't owe other friends. Friends do because they want to do. People do for people because they want to do, you know, because it's in their heart to help people out. They see people down. They see people out. They see them struggling. They see them having difficulty. And that's why they do, because it's in their heart. They have compassion. They have love for others, you know. Not because they owe you anything. You know, it's because they do because they want to do, you know. So, anyway, I know it's a little longer, but I just had to kind of clarify some things. And, you know, and that personal accountability, individual responsibility, I've preached on that before. I've talked about it a long time before, specifically around 2020, you know, when so many people got the bee shots and the snake bite, you know. No, they didn't want to be responsible. You know, they didn't want to be held accountable, that, you know, for the after effects, the aftermath, you know. And it's just like, you made the choice. You made the decision. you know, and it's just like, I'm sorry. It's not like we don't, excuse me, it's not like we don't have compassion or sympathy, you know, even that's kind of useless, but compassion or mercy or whatever else, and show grace. But at the same time, people make their choices, they make their decisions, and then they have to live with the consequences of their actions. And that goes for all of us, you know. And so I don't know what else to say regarding this. I guess that's about it. But just be careful out there. Be wise. Be smart. And be ready. Like I said, you might want to get whatever it is you need to get from the store now, in case they do on Saturday decide to start shutting things down or whatever. I don't know if they will or not. I don't know if they'll lock the doors or not. But you might just want to be careful and be wise and get whatever it is you need now. So anyway, I gotta drink some water. My throat's really dry. Y'all have a great, blessed day, and take care. Bye-bye.